If you are like many people who have goals in the new year when it comes to weight loss or weight gain, well, it might be time to start tracking. And I'm going to walk you through how I started tracking with MyFitnessPal. I'm Juli Bauer Roth, the food, fitness, and lifestyle blogger behind PaleOMG. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to share my favorite food, workout, and wellness tips to help you live your best damn life. And today we're talking things in the new year. I mean, this is going to be any time of year, really, but there's no better time to talk about it than right now. It's all about tracking calories. Do you track calories? I used to have a really negative relationship with food in general, especially with tracking. I still remember tracking my food in my planner in high school and figuring out how I could get under 500 calories. 500. How upsetting is that? You can eat so many calories when you're in high school. Ugh. But I had a really negative relationship with food, so I did not track forever. Well, I should back up. I tracked a little bit in college when I started doing the Zone diet. And Zone diet is all about blocks. It's kind of like Weight Watchers. So I started tracking then. And then I found myself having a really negative relationship around tracking, that I felt like I had to be all in and it had to be perfect at all times or I was failing. It was just like when I started eating paleo, I felt like I had to be all in or I was a failure. And I've done that with so many things in life, like CrossFit and anything else that I was absolutely obsessed with. Well, I found a much better relationship with food over time. I started intuitively eating. I started regaining my relationship around food, around my body. And the more I did that, the easier it was for me to start tracking my food and not feeling obsessive about it. Maybe I was under with calories someday, maybe I was over, but it was so nice to not have to be obsessive about it. Because in the past, it was all about losing weight and just being as skinny as possible. It was always about being skinny. It was never around being healthy or fit or happy in my body. It was never around those things. It was only about the weight and weight on the scale, not even like a DEXA scan, which I've talked about on YouTube before. It was just about weight loss. So right now I have goals. Since I'm still postpartum, I'm just rebuilding that body from the ground up. And my goals are to put on muscle, to have great milk supply so I can feed my child and not need the support of formula. Nothing wrong with that. That is just one of my goals at the moment. And over time, when I'm breastfeeding less, the goal is to lose weight, to become leaner after I put on this muscle at the same time. So for me personally, I am simply tracking calories and protein. That's what I track every single day. I'm making sure every single day I'm hitting over my body weight in grams of protein. And then I'm making sure I hit my calorie goal, either hitting it, around it. Sometimes I'm over, sometimes I'm under, but I'm making sure I'm tracking all of that so I know how I'm feeling every day. So if I'm feeling hungrier than the day before, I can look back. Was I a little low on my calories that day? Did I under eat something? Was I not sticking with my protein like I normally do? It's a great way to track data and figure out what's going on with your body when things feel a little bit off. Now let's get started with how I started tracking calories. Hopefully it helps you, because I feel like I'm still a novice. I still don't feel like I am an absolute professional with tracking my calories because I don't know all the macros. I don't obsess about all of those things. I am just simply trying to make sure that I hit my calories, or if I'm trying to lose weight, I have a caloric deficit, or if I'm trying to gain weight, I'm in a surplus, and then I'm tracking my protein as well, like I said before. So the app I use is MyFitnessPal. I've never used any other apps, but I've heard from many people that MyFitnessPal is still the best app out there. I know other people try to use different ones, and then they normally come back to MyFitnessPal. So this is not a paid endorsement, but I've heard great things about MyFitnessPal versus other apps. Now, I first found out my basal metabolic rate, which is also known as your BMR. So there's a really simple BMR calculator online. I'll link it in the description below, and so you can check that out. And it will show you your basal metabolic rate, also known as resting metabolic rate. It is what you are burning doing nothing. You're just living. If you were just laying there doing absolutely nothing, this is going to be your BMR. But then it will show you, depending on your activity level, how many other calories you are burning. So say your BMR is 1300, but you have a very heavy activity level, maybe it's gonna shoot somewhere between 22 or 2300 calories that you're burning in the day, just depending on the person, depending on your height, depending on your age, all kinds of different factors. And remember, when you're putting this number into the calculator, you're looking at your height, your weight, your age, and it's breaking that down along with your activity level. This is a guesstimate. It's not going to be absolutely perfect. And this is really going to range depending on your genetics, your muscle mass, diet, specific needs, maybe you're pregnant, maybe you're breastfeeding. And like I said before, activity as well. Everybody's activity is a little bit different. Maybe you're walking a ton in the day, plus you're doing workouts on a regular basis. Maybe you're simply walking. Everybody's activity is going to be a little bit different. So not only will you find out your BMR, but then you'll also find out your BEE, which is your basal energy expenditure. Mouthful, you know what I'm saying? And that's going to be how much energy you are burning based on your activity level. So it's going to give you that rough estimate that I was talking about before. So you have our BMR, resting metabolic rate, basal metabolic rate, and then we have our BEE, basal energy expenditure. Either way, you're going to find out how many calories you're burning in a day, and that's going to help you kind of set your goals of what your goals are. Are you trying to put on weight? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to maintain? So for me, for example, right now, since I'm breastfeeding, my needs are going to be higher for my weight and for my height. I'm just going to have more needs because I'm burning more calories while breastfeeding. So I'm burning 300 to 500 extra calories a day. So I need to equate that into my daily caloric needs. But then I also want to find out protein. So protein is going to be different for everybody. If you are an active person, you want roughly between 0.8 to 1.0 times your body weight, which will equal how many grams of protein you'll eat in a day. So if you're 140 pounds, your goal is to put on muscle, you can times 140 by 1. What will that equal? You got this. Oh my God, you got this. 140 grams of protein per day. So not only do you have your calories, now you have your protein, and then you can go on with your badass self. If you want to track carbs and fat, that is awesome too. That's just not what I want to do. So I'm not even sharing about that because I think protein and calories are most important. Protein is going to get you feeling full, satiated. It's going to help you build muscle, and calories, it's going to help you put on more weight, lose weight, or maintain your weight. Now let's talk about MyFitnessPal and starting to plug these numbers in. So if you are looking for calories in a certain packaged food, so say you have Doritos, you want to know the Doritos for a serving size. Literally, you can put in Doritos and it's going to be in there. More often than not, packaged and processed foods are already in the MyFitnessPal system. You can even scan the back of the package and it will quickly pull up the information about that product. But more often than not, people have already plugged all of these things in there and it is already auto-filled for you. So you click on the Doritos with that serving size and it will input all the information into your daily caloric and nutrition breakdown. Now, if you're eating at chain restaurants or very popular restaurants, oftentimes they already have their information in the database as well. Somebody has already put it in there. Maybe the brand has, I don't know how that works. But say you're going to Five Guys, they have their whole menu already in there. So you search Five Guys, you can click on Five Guys menu, and then you can break down your burger that you're purchasing, the French fries, the shake, whatever you're getting. Oh my God, how good does a milkshake sound? Oh. But if you're going to local ones, you're not going to usually find that. So that makes it a little bit tricky. Eating out at restaurants, depending on where you're eating, can make it a little challenging. That's where rough estimates come into play. It's not always perfect by any means. And that's why it's kind of important to not eat out as often, trying to eat at home for many reasons. Obviously, it's much healthier, it's more cost effective oftentimes. And so eating out makes it a little more challenging, but you can do some rough guesstimates and you can always add a little bit more fat into that breakdown. So if you have lunch at a local burger spot, always add a little bit extra fat because they're going to be cooking with more fat than you would at home. That's why it tastes so good, duh. But if you are cooking at home, you can get pretty perfect with your measurements because you can weigh out your food. Getting a food scale is going to be incredibly helpful. If you grab a food scale off of Amazon, there's a million. I'll link my favorite here. Now, if you're eating potatoes, you can weigh out your potatoes. You can go into MyFitnessPal, search gold potatoes, russet potatoes, whatever potatoes you like. Gold are the best. That's why they're called gold, obviously. But you can search that and there'll be a top one. You can change the serving size to whatever you prefer. So if you want to measure out in grams, which is usually the best way, I just don't think we often do that as Americans, but if you want to weigh something out in grams, change the serving size to 1 gram, and then you go down to 100 grams to choose however many grams you are weighing out of those potatoes. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 150. And then it will process however many calories that is, and it will input it into your MyFitnessPal. So weighing your food will be incredibly important to get all of those little numbers so you can get it right on the dot if you're really trying to perfect your calorie counting skills. Now, what about recipes? Hopefully you're using PaleOMG.com recipes. Hoo-dee-hoo! If you're not, that's cool, but you totally should. And if you wanted to input my 5-ingredient pizza spaghetti pie, you should try it. It's super easy and delicious. If you want to get that into MyFitnessPal, well, maybe somebody already has it, but oftentimes they're going to be using different ingredients than you. So say you're using a pasta sauce, maybe the pasta sauce is going to be a little bit different calorically, or it's going to have some sausage in it. So it's going to have a higher protein level or a higher fat content. So the best practice to input this recipe is to use the desktop version of MyFitnessPal to input it in there. Do not use the mobile site. I find the mobile site a pain in the ass, and it's much harder to search versus the desktop. So go to the desktop, you go to my recipes, you search the recipe, you literally just copy and paste from the site you're using, and it will pull down all of the ingredients. Then you can search the individual ingredients. So everyone's going to use a different Italian sausage, a different pizza sauce. Your weight of your spaghetti squash is going to be different person to person. So you can input this yourself and get the exact breakdown of however many serving sizes you're going to serve it as. Now, something I still find a little bit challenging because it's just more work is figuring out the breakdown, the serving size, the calorie breakdown, everything of a casserole or a soup or any of those big dishes, making a stew, whatever. So here's how to do it, okay? I find this still a little bit hard. So we're in this together, okay? Now, first you'll want to take note of your empty dish. So say you have a Dutch oven, weigh out your Dutch oven. I always take a picture of it instead of writing it down, whatever works for you. And so you know how much that dish weighs without anything in it. Next, you'll weigh out your ingredients. So you can weigh out your onion, you can weigh out your butternut squash, your sausage, whatever it might be. You weigh it out. You know those measurements because you're going to input them into your recipe or into the meal that you're making. Then you cook everything up. Then you're going to weigh it again. So you have your Dutch oven. Everything's cooked. You got this soup. You got my chicken pot pie soup in there, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to eat this. You set it down on the food scale, weigh that out. Now you're going to take that weight minus the weight of your Dutch oven in the first place. So that picture that you took, that whatever you wrote down in the first place, minus that, and that's going to give you the number of grams of that meal. Okay? You got that? Are you with me? Then you can decide however many servings. Say you're serving 6 servings. So here's an example. You make my soup. You're like, just licking the spoon, burning your tongue. You got all those, it feels like pimples all over your tongue because your tongue is so burnt. And it weighs out to 5,000. 5,000 grams is the total weight of this soup. So you're gonna take 5,000 grams, you're gonna divide that by 6, and what do you get? You get, just kidding, I did this math already, 833 grams. So that will be 1 serving. And when you measure out your soup or your casserole, you'll put your plate down, press tar, so it zeroes out, and then you start making your soup. You take the chicken pot pie soup, you pour it in the bowl, perfect, 834. You're crazy, you know, you're crazy. I guessed, my bad. So now you have your soup, you have your serving, you know exactly, it's already in your MyFitnessPal, so you say 1 serving out of 6 servings, breaks it down, boom. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you got it. So now we've reviewed this all. What about meat? Meat is one of those things, one of those common mistakes. So you get your meat and you cook it up and then you weigh it. Say you cook it and then weigh it. And then you go into MyFitnessPal and you're like chicken thighs. and it says 4 ounces and you're like, boom, 4 ounces. I cooked it right here. I weighed it out. It's 4 ounces. I put it in MyFitnessPal. Well, MyFitnessPal is taking what is on the label. So if you have chicken thighs and your label says 4 ounces, well, it's talking about what the product is right there, raw. So you have raw chicken. Well, when you cook chicken, you're going to take some of that moisture out. So it is going to be less ounces after it's cooked. If you are a person who cooks your steak to well done because you are disgusting, well, you know what? It's going to have less moisture in it than a person who is having a completely rare steak, obviously. So it's going to range a little bit, but all-encompassing range, it's gonna be about 1 ounce difference. So when you have 4 ounces of chicken on the label and you just measured out 3 ounces of chicken, that's gonna be 4 ounces of chicken raw. If you weigh out 4 ounces of chicken, that would be 5 ounces raw. So in MyFitnessPal, unless it says cooked, if it says chicken thigh, it means raw, and it says 4 ounces, then you will weigh out 3 ounces of cooked chicken thigh. Does that make sense? Another easy thing, sometimes it's already labeled as cooked and you can always use that. But if it doesn't, like I use this ground elk on a regular basis and there's not a cooked option on there, I use that change in moisture. 4 ounces means 3 ounces cooked. Hope that makes sense. And then one more hard one. This one always threw me freaking off. Pasta and rice. How confusing is that? When you look at the brand and it says 2 ounces, it's like, well, it's 2 ounces uncooked. Nobody's eating raw freaking hard pasta. Oh my, or the rice. Gross. So rice and pasta approximately doubles in weight when you cook it, when you add moisture to it. So with the meat, we've taken moisture out. With the rice and pasta, we're adding moisture in. Do you feel me? Do you feel me now? So your 2 ounces of rice or your 2 ounces of pasta have now increased to 4 ounces when cooked. So when you are weighing out your pasta after you cook it, before maybe you mix it with sauce or add it into a dish, you're going to weigh out, if you want the serving size, 4 ounces if the serving size says 2 ounces. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Now let's talk through some ways to stick with your goals daily. Now this can be the hard part. It's so easy to set goals, right? We're like, yes, my calories are 2,200 and I will crush them. But then you didn't log before and you go out to eat with everybody and you're like, wait, how am I at 30 grams of protein but at 2,100 calories? Oh, because I didn't plan ahead. So let's talk about planning. What is that quote? Failing to plan is planning to fail. You know, tough. I really do love that quote. It is so true. You gotta plan. And something that helps so much is pre-logging your meals the night before. So pre-log everything you're gonna do. Say you have, if you're like me, you like having your coffee with a little bit of heavy cream, a little bit of maple syrup, you're like dibby dab. Well, I have that already pre-logged from the day before and you can copy to the next day. So you can just go down to the bottom where your heavy cream and your maple syrup were the day before. Maybe it's in extras, maybe it's in your first meal, and you can copy to the next date. So it makes it super easy. Many of us have the same routine every single day, and so you can copy and paste. Easy peasy. I always copy and paste my morning decaf coffee. I copy and paste my protein shake. Oftentimes I have the same breakfast, so I copy and paste. Even if it's from 3 days ago, I copy and paste that. It makes it so much easier than trying to go back through everything. But the main goal of pre-logging is to know if you are hitting your caloric needs for that day and your protein goals, if that's what you're tracking, like me, and I'm just acting like everybody's doing that. Well, that's what I'm just sharing, okay? So if you are tracking your protein, well, you gotta hit those protein numbers all throughout the day, or you're gonna get to the end of the day and you're gonna have 50 grams of protein left and maybe not that many calories. And so it's pretty challenging to hit that. So I pre-log the day before, and then you can go down to the bottom, hit the nutrition tab, and it will break down what your calories, your protein, your fat, fiber, all of that detail in one place. And so you know if you need to move things around. So if I'm way over my caloric needs and my protein goals are there, how can I change those numbers? Maybe I can change the amount of dressing I'm using in something. Maybe I can use a leaner cut of meat. How do I mess around with this to get those numbers met every single day? Now, if you find yourself going over your calories, maybe you're trying to lose weight, maybe you're trying to have a caloric deficit. If you're going over your calories, increase those veggies. They're going to make you feel much more satiated. They're going to be low in calories. They're going to fill you up, and they're going to keep those calorie numbers a little bit lower. Now, if you're trying to get a surplus and you're having a hard time with that, we can see about increasing that fat, because that's going to increase those numbers pretty easily with a little smaller amount, or just increasing all your meals altogether. But making sure you're looking at those things ahead of time is going to help, and making sure you're adding in veggies not only is going to help with your diet, it's going to help with your gut, but it's going to help with those caloric needs as well. And last but not least, remember, not every day is going to be perfect. Sometimes you're going to have a low caloric day. Maybe you were really busy. Maybe you weren't hungry. Maybe you were going through a really stressful time and food just isn't the most important thing. There are other things at play. That's okay. Remembering that every day shouldn't be perfect. It's just about consistency. And something I like to look at that one of my friends showed me is to look at your week view. So you can go to the nutrition tab, you can click at the top, it has day view, week view, and you can check out your week average of calories, protein, fat, and see where it's at. Maybe you had a really low day, but you've been consistent all around the board, and so it's not going to matter. Your calories are about the same. Your protein is still at a good average. That's what's important. Not everyday perfection, but consistency over the week. So some days you're going to have a lower day. Some days you're going to have a really high day where maybe you're eating 1,000 calories more. You're just going out, you're snacking, it's the holidays, whatever it might be. But if you're staying consistent throughout the week, other than those small times, that is what is most important to get you to your long-term goals. I hope you found this little breakdown about counting calories, about tracking your food, about MyFitnessPal. I hope you found this helpful. I really wanted to share just a basic guide of how to use it, because when I started using it, I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And I tracked my protein wrong forever, my rice wrong forever. I had no idea what I was doing. So now I'm much more consistent with my actual numbers, and hopefully it helps you become consistent from the beginning. So if you have goals in the new year, if you have goals when you're just watching this, maybe it's, I don't know, July, and you're like, no, I have goals right now. It is the new year all the time. You're always in the new year because it's always new year. Should I stop saying new year? Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you did. Give it a little like. Don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to have you here for more videos in the future. And if you want to stay tuned for more, I have a few more coming up. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Do you like to track calories? Do you not? Do you intuitively eat? How do you know if you're eating enough protein? Do you have goals? Let me know. I want to hear from you. I'll chat with you soon.